Today I have a very exciting video for you. Today we will compare the best out of both worlds, iPhone 14 Pro versus Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra. We will compare the different video features and the cameras in a bunch of different categories, and in the end we will find out which creates the better videos. Let's get started.
And what's up everybody, my name is Jewel and I'm the creator of Smartphone Filmmaking Pro, and on this channel we talk about capturing amazing videos with our smartphones. We share tips and tricks and review the latest and greatest accessories. If that sounds interesting to you, you might consider hitting that subscribe button. Today we will compare the two arguably best smartphones that you can buy in 2023. On one side we have the iPhone 14 Pro, which was released in September 2022, and on the other hand we have the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, which was just released in February 2023. In this video we will compare these two beasts in 12 different categories, and the winner of each category will get a point, and in the end we will find out which of these two smartphones is the best for filming high quality videos. If you don't have the time to watch the entire video, at the bottom of this video you will find timestamps, but without any further ado, let's get started. Alright, so the first category is all about the settings and possibilities that these phones have to offer. If you have used an iPhone before, you know the layout is sleek, easy and minimal, which is a good thing, but also a bad thing. It's easy to use, but you can't change a lot of things. For example, if you wanted to change the white balance, you would have to use a third-party app. On the S23 Ultra, on the other hand, you get a lot more options, and you can use the video mode, and there you get basically the same features like you get on the iPhone. But the S23 Ultra does also have a Pro video mode, which is basically sort of like a Filmic Pro, but you have just built that natively into the camera app. I love the flexibility that the Samsung offers me, so the first point goes to the S23 Ultra. The next category is about the detail and sharpness. Most smartphones have the issue that they over sharpen their images, which leads to unprofessional looking footage. Both the iPhone 14 Pro and the Samsung Galaxy S23 cameras have high resolution sensors that do capture a lot of detail. However, the Samsung S23 Ultra does have a higher megapixel count and is able to even film in 8K. Keep in mind that this only works with the main camera and not with the telephoto or the ultra wide angle lens. I think if you compare the regular 4K images, both look very good and very comparable. If you film in 8K with the Samsung, you will definitely get more details compared to the iPhone, but I do think that the Samsung over sharpens the image more than the iPhone does. So I think both have their pros and their cons, so I will call this category a draw. The next category is a very interesting one and also a very important one, and this is all about the stability and the in-body stabilization. Both of these smartphones have optical image stabilization, which is super helpful when you're filming handheld because this just smoothes out your imperfections when you're walking, but also when you're just standing. However, there is a difference between those two smartphones. The iPhone 14 Pro offers optical image stabilization on all lenses, and the S23 only offers it on the wide and the telephoto lens. Additionally to that, the iPhone 14 Pro has a more advanced image stabilization system, which is called Sensor Shift IBIS, which uses the phone sensor to stabilize the image, and this results in overall just a bit more smooth looking footage. In real world scenarios, I have compared both of them side by side. I think that the iPhone feels a bit more stable and a bit more smooth, but it's not a big difference. But if I have to give this point to one of these phones, I will give this one to the iPhone. The next category is all about the cinematic mode and the portrait video features that these smartphones have to offer. The iPhone 14 Pro features the cinematic mode, which was introduced with the iPhone 13 Pro, and this allows for shallow depth of field, and you can change the aperture and you can even change the focus after you have recorded your video. The Samsung S23 Ultra doesn't have a dedicated cinematic mode, but it can still capture portrait video with a blurred background. You just do not have as many options to tweak the image just as you like it. I have posted side-by-side comparisons here on YouTube, but also onto my Instagram page, and there were always more people leaning towards the iPhone than towards Samsung. Just looking at the image, I think that both look shockingly good considering they were both shot on a smartphone, but I do also think that the iPhone just looks a bit more natural. Also, if you're moving around, I do think that the iPhone does render the image just a bit more natural, and overall I think it just looks a bit better. So this category goes to the iPhone. All right, the next category is all about the HDR capabilities. Both smartphones have the option to shoot in HDR internally. The iPhone 14 Pro offers Dolby Vision HDR and the Samsung S23 Ultra offers HDR10+. Both HDR modes allow for more accurate and vivid looking colors as well as improved contrast in challenging lighting situations. I think that both look absolutely fantastic. It just makes the entire workflow a bit more taxing. By the way, the video that I shot through Vienna with the S23 Ultra was not shot in the HDR10+ mode. I just shot this with the regular setup, not in HDR, and I think it turned out really nice. So in the end, I cannot see a big difference between Dolby Vision and the S23 Ultra setup when it comes to shooting in HDR, so I will call this category a draw. The next category is a very interesting one, and that is all about the different lenses and the field of view that you get. The iPhone 14 Pro has 3 rear-facing cameras. You get a wide, an ultra-wide, and also a telephoto lens. And the Samsung S23 has 4 lenses. You get a wide, an ultra-wide, a telephoto, and a periscope, which is a 10x lens. The 10x lens of the S23 just offers a much greater zoom range compared to what you get on the iPhone, and I think that is just a game changer in my opinion. If you want to capture the widest field of view shots possible, however, then you will lean more towards the iPhone because that does have a wider field of view. So in the end, in my opinion, it just depends on what is more important for you personally, but I think the 10x telephoto lens on the Samsung, that is just something completely different that I have not seen on any other smartphone before. And also considering how great the video quality is, I think that's just a complete game changer in my opinion. Even though I do like the ultra wide angle lens of the iPhone way better, I think the 10x lens just, it just completely blew me away. And this is a game changer in my opinion. So I will give this category to the Samsung. The next category is about the macro possibilities. Both smartphones are capable of capturing very close-up shots, and it's actually crazy like how close you can get towards your subject. In real-world situations, both deliver amazing and crazy good results, and in my testing, I could not see a big difference between the iPhone and the Samsung. So this category, again, is a draw. The next category is about the front-facing camera. The iPhone 14 Pro has a 12 megapixel front-facing camera, and the Samsung S23 has a 10 megapixel front-facing camera. Both cameras are capable of capturing 4K videos, and I'm not extremely satisfied with either of them. The Samsung does struggle more in lower light situations and it tends to capture grainy videos more easily, but like I said, I'm also not super happy with the iPhone quality. In good lighting situations, I think that you can get great videos with both of them, and overall I think the colors just look a bit more natural on the iPhone, so I will give this category to the iPhone. The next category is also very interesting in my opinion, and that is the file sizes, because you just have amazing video cameras in your pockets and you want to shoot a lot of footage, but then it's also important like how big are the file size. I shot a 1-minute video on both phones in 4K at 30 frames per second, and on the Samsung this 1-minute clip had 838 megabytes, and on the iPhone the same clip only had 120 megabytes. So this means that the file sizes on the Samsung are about 7 times bigger, and if you switch over to 8K it will be even bigger. On the iPhone, however, you can also get some massive file sizes if you decide to switch over to ProRes, and if you do so, you will get gigantic file sizes. But overall, in real-world situations, the iPhone does have smaller file sizes, which is why I'm giving this point to the iPhone. The next category is about the low light possibilities. Both smartphones have excellent low light possibilities when you're taking photos. When you're filming in low light situations, you can see that both of them do struggle due to the small sensor that they have. In day-to-day usage, you will get okay results with both of them, and I could not see a massive difference between them. However, I do think that the iPhone does perform a bit better because it does have a bigger sensor and a smaller megapixel count, which means that more light can hit the sensor, and overall I just found the low light videos to look a bit more natural and a bit less grainy on the iPhone. So this category again goes to the iPhone. The next category is about the slow motion capabilities of these smartphones. Both phones can capture slow motion video, with the iPhone 14 Pro offering a 1080p version at up to 240 frames per second, and the Samsung S23 Ultra offers the same in 1080p, but you can also drop down the quality to 720p, and then you can capture up to a massive 960 frames per second. Again, I think that neither of them perform exceptionally well, and the videos just lose a lot of the detail, and overall it just looks a bit like a pixel mess. The Samsung, however, does have more options with the 960 frames per second, and overall when you compare the 240 frames per second side by side, I think they look very similar, but with the feature of the 960 frames, I will give this category to the Samsung. And the last category is about the natural depth of field. How blurry is the background if you film normally without the cinematic or the portrait mode? In the past, I compared the iPhone 13 Pro to the 14 Pro, and it was pretty noticeable that the sensor of the iPhone 14 Pro just got a lot bigger because you had more natural depth of field. And in my testing, I found pretty much the same results, also compared to the S23 Ultra. The iPhone does have a much greater and nicer looking natural shallow depth of field. The S23 Ultra compared side by side looks like it doesn't have any shallow depth of field at all, so this category, in my opinion, clearly goes to the iPhone. Alright, so now what is the conclusion? We have compared the 14 Pro versus the S23 Ultra in 12 different categories, and as you could see, it is a pretty close race between the two. Both smartphones are capable of delivering crazy good videos, and both of them have their pros and their cons. The most important thing is that you know how to use the smartphone that you have to its fullest potential, which is why we have created Smartphone Filmmaking Pro in the first place. If you would like to know the 5 secrets that you need to know to get that cinematic look with your smartphone, then just click the first link below that like button. That will bring you to our free webinar where I shared top 5 secrets for shooting cinematic videos with your smartphone. The one thing that stood out the most to me when I was testing these two smartphones was the 10x lens of the Samsung. In my opinion, this is just something completely different, and this is just very awesome to have, because with this 10x lens, you can just capture shots that absolutely do not look like they were captured on a smartphone. The iPhone, on the other hand, delivers much smaller file sizes, and I think the cinematic mode is much better on the iPhone compared to the Samsung. In the end, you just need to decide for yourself whether you want to be in the Apple ecosystem or in the Android ecosystem. If you have not subscribed already, then make sure to do so and click over here to see how I made this cinematic video with the S23 Ultra.